I'm your host, Scary Pops, and everybody loves a good scare. So let's get into it.
Essa safada se apaixona, busca seu escape.
Did you miss me? She was the prettiest girl in class, but of course she never heard that from me. I was just obsessed with her. I'd always steal glances at her every chance I got. After class that day, we rode the train home, and I decided to do more than just ride the train. I hopped off the train when she got off and followed her out of the station and onto the sidewalk. Of course, I made sure to keep my distance. I wanted to surprise her. It was pretty hard staying within a good distance of her, though. She kept taking glances back, and I would look down at my phone or pretend to tie my shoe every time she would. But then she unlocked her door, stepped inside her house, and I decided to creep up to the front stairs. My heart was pounding as I rang the doorbell. The doorbell sound chimed inside, and it just gave me butterflies. And as I was about to reach for the doorbell again, she opened the door ajar and recognized my face, and she gestured for me to hurry in, promptly closing the door behind me. "There was a guy," she said, and she paused. "There was a guy following." "Yeah, it was me." The words came out of my mouth before I realized what I said. "I know that." And so I sighed in relief. "But I'm talking about the man behind you." Just then the doorbell chimed, and the butterflies on my stomach stood still this time. My girlfriend and I, we bought an old house, and, well, she's in charge of the new construction, converting the kitchen into the master bedroom. Why me? I'm on wallpaper removal duty. And the previous owner had papered every wall and ceiling. So removing it is definitely brutal, but definitely satisfying. The best feeling is getting a long peel, similar to your skin when you're peeling from a sunburn. I don't know about you, but I kind of make a game of peeling. And I'm on the hunt for the longest piece before it rips. Just then, right under a corner section of the paper in every room is a person's name and a date. So all of a sudden the curiosity got the best of me one night. So I Googled one of the names and discovered the person was a missing person. The missing date matching the date under the wallpaper. The next day I made a list of all the names and dates. Sure enough, each name was for a missing person with the dates to match. We notified the police, and they sent out a crime scene team. Just then, I overheard one of the techs say, "Yep, it's human." "Human? What's human?" "Sir, where is the material you removed from the walls already? This isn't wallpaper that you're removing."
My family lives across the states in a small house. I try to visit often, given I usually get a lot of vacation time from my work. The drive is something I find relaxing, so I don't mind the extra couple days it takes to get there. Most of the time, I try to stay at one hotel or motel along the way, and when I do, I just check in, sleep, and get back on the road as soon as I'm able. It's mainly because the areas along the drive are bare and run down, usually in the middle of nowhere. I find it hard to feel safe since I'm not used to being in those kinds of areas. Last year, I took the same road trip I always did to my parents' house during the holiday season. I started my drive early, I want to say around 1 or 2 a.m., and drove for almost 20 hours straight, aside from stopping for food and coffee a few times. By then it was 11 p.m. and I was exhausted and struggling to stay awake behind the wheel. I was just under 8 hours away, but I couldn't go much further. I was in the middle of nowhere, so whatever the next possible place to stay at was, I planned on taking it. About 20 minutes further, I turned off into a small town. It pretty much just had a motel and gas station, but that was all I needed. I pulled into the mostly empty parking lot and walked over to the front desk. An older lady greeted me and made small talk. Then I got a room and headed back to my car so I could park closer to the door. I was extremely exhausted and left all of my stuff in the car and just went inside. I didn't care about the room at all. I just went inside and immediately got in the shower so I could get ready for bed as soon as possible. During my quick 5-minute shower, I heard a few tapping sounds. They sounded like they were from outside though, maybe a tree branch knocking against the building. I thought nothing of it and got out, putting on the same comfortable clothes I was wearing, then got in bed. I set an alarm on my phone so I wouldn't oversleep and finally reached for the lamp and turned off the light. Being at an old, run-down motel in the middle of nowhere seemed irrelevant compared to how tired I was, so I fell asleep without trouble. Though, I didn't stay asleep for long. I jumped awake, hearing something move in the darkness surrounding the bed. I sat up, staring toward the front door, but I could barely see anything. I was too scared to move and reach for the light, afraid of what I might see. It wasn't long before I heard something from the other side of the bed, outside the window. My heart was racing, and I could feel myself starting to sweat, as I was wide awake at this point. I quickly turned back around and switched on the light. The room was empty. Nothing seemed out of place, until I noticed the closet door was cracked open. Everything was going through my mind, trying to understand every possibility. "Hello?" I decided to call out, but there was no response. Feeling like I may have just scared myself for no reason, I got up and slowly walked towards the closet. When I pulled the closet door more open, I was confused. A large bag was wedged between the back of the closet and the door, falling to the ground as I opened it further. Looking around, there was actually a whole stash of luggage. Clothes, bags, appliances, all clearly belonging to someone, not the typical stuff you would see at a motel. While I was looking at all this stuff, I suddenly heard the window slam shut by my bed, followed by footsteps running away. I shivered and froze, then took this chance to grab my phone from the nightstand and run out to my car. Almost just as I got inside and turned the car on, I looked up and made eye contact with a man standing right by the door to the room. He looked at me for a second, then rushed inside and grabbed one of the large bags from the closet and sprinted off behind the building. I was terrified and quickly drove closer to the front office, then ran inside to tell the woman what had happened. She contacted the police immediately and locked us both inside the office until they arrived. What we found out next was confusing, and the information came out over multiple weeks, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. The remaining bags in the closet were identified, as they were found to belong to several individuals who were robbed within the past month at several different motel locations in the surrounding area. It's likely that the man was using the room I was in as a place to temporarily stash the belongings, using the unlocked window to access the room. One of those bags, however, belonged to a young woman who was reported missing just a few weeks prior, and the officers believe the crimes are connected. But all the reported bags that were stolen were found inside that closet, so the bag that the man ran inside to grab was not accounted for. They questioned me on it multiple times, making sure I was confident that I saw him run out with another bag, and asking me the approximate size of it and everything. My curiosity has really kept my mind from being able to forget that night, as I wonder what he planned on doing when he was outside the window while I was sleeping. I knew it was closed when I went to bed, so he had to have opened it while I was asleep, which is even creepier. I also wonder what was in that one bag that was so important that he needed to grab it before running off.